A very good morning, wherever you're watching us from. This is Kirk in the morning, the first day of February 2023. At least we are done with 1,000 days of January, and it's about time we began a new month going forward. I believe that you had a good January at least, and here we are to begin a new month. We have a lot lined up for you this morning, and of course, we are going to look into the issue to do with junior secondary school. It is the first week actually where the students in grade 7 just reported to various schools where they are going to continue with their grade 7, grade 8 and grade 9 of their junior secondary. What is your take on this transition so far? What's your take on what is going on as far as JSS is concerned? This is the conversation that we are going to have this morning, and let's begin this conversation. Remember that you can weigh in on our social media, Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook, Kirk TV Kenya on Twitter, as well as our SMS number, which is 031100220044, and we'll be able to look at your feedback and your comments even as we continue with the conversation this morning. But first things first, let me show you what is happening on our major roads into the city. My name is Vincent Kerosi, by the way. All right, let's look at the roads, major roads, of course, leading into the CBD this morning. We begin with Langata Road inbound to the CBD. Of course, not as bad if you look at, all the way from Galleria Mall all the way, just a little bit of traffic around Canvo to Wilson Airport there, but after that, it just flows, and then of course there's a little bit of traffic at around Nyayo Stadium there, but all in all, it doesn't look as bad on Langata Road this morning. I want to quickly look at what is happening on Ngong Road this morning, inbound to the city, bumper to bumper. I can tell you that for free, that things are not looking good on Ngong Road this morning. If you can have an alternative route into the city, then you better take that, because it is bumper to bumper on Ngong Road this morning. Quickly look at Mombasa Road this morning into the city. Mombasa Road, not as bad, of course. I believe it's because of the expressway where people have an alternative route there. Lunga Lunga Road this morning, bumper to bumper on industrial area connecting to Likon Road, not looking good at all. Let's have a look at what is happening on Jogo Road quickly if we can. Jogo Road connecting to Landis Road this morning looks friendly a little bit, and it's of course it's not usual for this road, but it looks cool this morning. You can have a look at that. If you can use that as an alternative route into the CBD Landis Road, then take that. Now a look at always the elephant in the room, and this is of course Thika Road this morning. Thika Road doesn't look good, my friends. If you're on Thika Road this morning and you're still in the house, you better wait until later on, because it is really jammy and clogging this morning on that road, especially on Kenya Utalii Survey, Kenya School of Monetary Studies around there. It doesn't look good at all this morning. Along Modaiga there, it doesn't look good at all this morning. So if you are on Thika Road, better know that you're going to meet a little bit of traffic. So better stay home and get out later if you are not that person who want to stay on the road for longer times than it is usual. So basically, that is what is happening on major roads leading into the CBD this morning. We of course continue to look at what you say on social media pertaining to the traffic this morning. But before then, just an update that you can of course look at the alternative routes if you want to take. Of course, I'm looking at Juja Road here. It looks better if you want to take an alternative one from Mothaiga there. You can use that this morning. So basically, that is the traffic update. Well, after that traffic update, time to look at what is making headlines in our dailies this morning. I have with me the Standard and the Daily Nation. Let's look at the Standard first, and this is what the Bible, of course, not the Bible, this is what the newspaper says this morning. Of course, the top page is Politics of Tax Suck in the Mighty. A story, of course, on how the former president Uhuru Kenyatta hit back at what the president William Ruto said the other day, that people have to pay tax. And this is what the Standard is saying this morning. Give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Issues of tax have been part of Kenya's political discourse since its independence. And if it is not the incoming president exhorting Kenyans to pay their fair share, it has been politicians crying foul over weaponizations of the instruments by KRA to silence critics. Now it is the country's big three fighting it out. A story written on page 4 of the Standard this morning. But again, we have a story to do with a conversation this morning, and this to do with the junior secondary, of course, where they say junior secondary kicks off amid anxiety. Grade 7 learners are beginning to settle down in their new classes, with many schools reporting high turnout. However, most parents were yet to buy new uniforms for the junior secondary level and conform to the new guidelines issued by the Education Ministry. Of course, this is a story that we are going to delve deeper this morning with the experts in the house to help us understand this transition so far. Story written on page 8 of the Standard. Another story that caught my eye this morning, of course, is a story to do with what we had just mentioned. Why playing the tax card is always a political hot potato. That's a story written on page 4 of the Standard. Page 7 of the Standard. Raila warns poll rigging in Africa spreading. This is the Azimio leader Raila Odinga expressing fears that if the credibility of last year's election is not addressed, it will have ripple effect on upcoming polls in Africa. Story on page 7 of the Standard. Let me flip all the way back to the sports pages, and this Man United sound deafening war cry. You know, Manchester United up against Nottingham Forest today on the second leg of the Carabao semi-finals. And of course, I can look at the fixtures there today. But again, you know, a story on page 39 of the Standard. It's about the coming to a close of the transfer window. Jorginho joining Arsenal as club strength squads. Of course, Jorginho signed for Arsenal yesterday, as well as a club, and actually is a Premier League record, where Chelsea completed the signing of Enzo Fernandez from Benfica on a 120 million euro move that happened almost at the wire of the deadline yesterday night. Chelsea fans, I know you're happy, but let's see how you're going to make a squad out of the many super players that you've signed. Is it going to be easy? Let's wait and see. A story on Daily Nation, the top page of the Daily Nation this morning. DPP says charges were dropped for failing threshold test of prosecution. The question they're asking here is, were the 15 billion shilling graft tax cases hot air? They've mentioned the names here. Of course, beginning with the 7.3 billion shilling case of Rigathi Gachagua and 9 others. We have 2.2 billion shillings of Mary Wambui, Piritin Njoki, and Palm Holdings. And then we have 1.9 billion shilling case involving Sang and Joe Sang and 5 others that was dropped as well by the DPP. And then we have the 1.5 billion shilling case, you know, connecting to Samuel Gishuru and Chris Okemo that was dropped as well. 1.1 billion case involving Geoffrey Mwangi and 17 others. 588 million shilling case, Zakaria Mbogwa and 4 others. 400 million shilling case involving the former managing director of KPLC, Ben Chumo, Kentaruz and others. And of course, 20 million shilling case involving Mike Sonko, Anton Otieno Mbok, alias Jamal and Rogue Security Limited, that was dropped as well. And the last one but not least is 19 shilling million case involving the former Malindi town MP, who is now, of course, the cabinet secretary to public service, and this is Aisha Jumwa and others. These cases totaling up to 15 billion shillings, and the question they're asking, were they hot air? Because all of them were dropped. That's a story covered on page 4 and 5 of the Standard of the Daily Nation this morning. And of course, they have also written the story to do with the fiasco between Uhuru Kenyatta and of course, the President Ruto. Focus on service delivery, Uhuru tells Ruto as he mourns Magoha. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta and First Lady Magoha, when they condole Dr. Barbara Magoha, of course, the widow of former Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha, yesterday, where the former president asks the current regime to focus on service delivery and put aside hot air talk. That is basically what is in the papers this morning. Of course, choose your favorite as always and get to read in deep and in depth of the stories written by my fellow journalists this morning. Well, we are done with traffic, done with the newspaper this morning. Time to look at what is making headlines this morning in the news. And we begin with former President Uhuru Kenyatta, accompanied by former cabinet secretaries under his leadership, visited the family of the late Professor George Magoha to condole with the family. The leaders led by Uhuru Kenyatta remembered the former education cabinet secretary for his excellence at work, overseeing the transition from the 844 curriculum to the CBC in the country, as well as curbing cases of cheating during the national examinations.
We're here today to condole with you, Mama, and your family, but also to celebrate the life of a colleague, a man of great integrity, a hard-working Kenyan. We were going through a lot of challenges with exams in this country. And when we met and went through, and I repeat again, leading from the front, Professor took it personally, assigning ministers and PSs and other officers. You are in charge to make sure this container is open, make sure the seal is intact, make sure this is intact, make sure this is intact, to the point that he brought integrity back to our exams. And there is no doubt.
All of you have fallen short of Magoha standards except me. I'm wearing a tie. You're wearing a collar. You can get away with it. I actually must admit I had to think about it. And in honor of Professor Magoha, those standards, and compromisingly high standards, that is the brother we are escorting.
And we know that at 4 a.m., you have to be up to be at a container at 6. Otherwise, you receive a call from Magoha, and it won't be a kind call. Professor Magoha was the turbo engine, and my colleagues can bear me out. Professor is the one who charged the room. Every time we were in the room, he's the one who supplied the energy.
Sticking to that story, leaders accompanying Uhuru Kenyatta, including Wiper Democratic Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, have hit back at the Kenya Kwanza regime for poking holes in the leadership of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta and tarnishing his legacy. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta reiterating on the proper choice of implementing the CBC curriculum in the country, stating that it was the best decision for the country.
And I believe that when I made him a minister, I made the right choice. Hiyo ni wataongea, utaona watarudi tu hapo hapo. Ngoja wacha wapatiwe nafasi wapige gumzo. They will come back there.
If anybody was today to go out and seem to victimize President Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know what is going to happen to this country. Because in his time, allow me to say that, because he was Magoha's boss. So what is this we are hearing around town? The pettiness about which Fred is talking.
At the same time, Azimio leader Raila Odinga has reiterated his stance that the misery surrounding the 2022 presidential elections need sorting out. Speaking Nigeria, where he gave a keynote speech in a conference on credible elections and economy in transition, Odinga said that African democracies are in a danger of crumbling if the genuinity of elections will always be in doubt.
Back home, I have expressed fears that if we do not comprehensively and credibly address the issue of credibility of this election outcome last year, the virus will spread and affect the upcoming elections on the continent. More immediately, Kenyans may lose all faith and decide to boycott future elections because they will believe their votes do not matter. Kenya has become a laboratory for bad election practices that others borrow around the continent. You may recall that our malpractices of 2007 quickly became the script for Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. As a Pan-Africanist and as an Afro-optimist, I fully subscribe to and support Africa's Agenda 2063, which seeks the socio-economic transformation of the continent. And I'm also a student of late Kwame Nkrumah, who said that Africa must unite in order to progress.
Now, Korogosho's member of County Assembly, Absalom Odhiambo, remained in police custody awaiting a court ruling today. The Office of the Director of Criminal Investigation has asked the court for permission to detain the MCA for another 7 days to complete investigations. The MCA is alleged to have uttered words that, according to the prosecution, are likely to cause violence or destabilization. Odhiambo, through his lawyer, argues that the case is political and will tarnish his name.
Have been met by the applicants to detain the respondent for 7 days as sought. Therefore,
I'll contextualize this matter in the sense that this is a politics that is being brought to the judiciary. And the trend of politics that before this court, before Your Honor, you sat here, I happened to defend 5 cabinet ministers right now who are charged of similar offenses.
Your Honor, this is the law. There is a respondent who has been brought before this court. He cannot just walk away because he's in custody. Kindly accord him bond of his own cognizance, that is free bond, because he's an honorable member of County Assembly, so that whatever issues that the police or the investigators have against him can be channeled while he is out on bond. Bearing in mind that he was the manner in which he was arrested.
Further afield is that Pope Francis arrived in Kinshasa, Congo yesterday. The Pope Francis landed at the Njili International Airport in DRC's capital of Kinshasa, beginning his 40th apostolic journey abroad and his 5th journey to Africa. The Holy Father visits the nation from 31st January to 3rd of February, following in the footsteps of Pope St. John Paul II, who visited there in 1980 and 1985. At the completion of his journey on Sunday, he will have visited 60 countries since the start of his pontificate. All right, traffic update done, newspaper review done, the news update done. Time for a break. When we come back, we'll have a time to look at the conversation this morning. Of course, joined in studio by two guests who are going to help us understand the transition to junior secondary school, because they are at the helm, at the center of this education sector, and they are going to help us understand what you need to know so far as JSS, that's the junior secondary school, is concerned. Do not go away, because in a short while we shall be back.
The Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, PCMF, welcomes all PCMF readers to the annual Readers Conference year 2023 in Milere Beach Hotel, Mombasa, as we mark the journey of 50 years from when the idea of having a men fellowship was mooted since 1973. Keep registering, keep paying up through our group's account in Family Bank.
Our year 2023 theme for the conference comes from the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 24. And it says, motivated men in love for good works.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90 647.
PCEA Enomatesiani Booth Boys High School is an ideal school for boys located in a quiet and serene environment, ideal for learning in Matasia, Kajiado County. The school works towards producing qualified students who become competent professionals in the society.
We offer a wide variety of subjects in our school. Our school is well equipped. We have a state-of-the-art library, a spacious boarding section, a modern kitchen, also Olympic-sized swimming pool where our students go and have their swimming lessons.
The school focuses its effort not only in classroom learning, but we also provide learners with equal opportunities, that is to hone their abilities and talents. We have games like football, chess, volleyball, among others. The climate here is also favorable for all students.
PCEA Enomatesiani Booth Boys High School is open for January 2023 intake in Forms 1, 2 and 3.
Our school is founded on Christian value. We appeal for you to register, and we know we'll be able to mentor your boys through our Christian setup.
We are going to mold our boys in Christian values, and we are committed to do so at this time when the boy child must be taken care of.
For more information, get in touch via 0796 560000, 0796 560000. Email us pcea@enoboothboys@gmail.com.
Kirk TV is very promising, and judging from what is happening with other media houses, I would just say that our hope is that Kirk TV will continue to thrive, and even to outdo many other stations. It will continue to mission, and we also look at a point where Kirk TV will be the station of choice, not just for Presbyterians, as we say, but for all Christians across the board. We are looking at a situation where Kirk TV, again, as we are doing right now, will be the station where, because we have so many other stations, Christian stations, but you want to be seen as that one station which gives the right doctrine. You know, the right doctrine, and also a station whereby it will be able to bring together all the churches, all Christians together,
as opposed to segmentizing, Christians. Yeah. So we look at that point where everything Christian will be
under one roof.
At the one roof, and that is Kirk TV.
To partner with us, send your financial support to pay bill number 401-9613, account partner. Pay bill number 401-9613, account partner.
The great people on earth today are the people who pray. Not those who talk about prayer or those who explain about prayer, but those who take time and pray.
God answers prayers. Why? Because He hears. His ear is not deaf, so He hears our prayers.
Men and women who go before God, we should be men and women of godly standards. Sure. So we abide. Yeah. So that we keep tapping from the source.
But as we pray, it is important to tell God that your will be done in this prayer that I'm praying, or about this prayer item that I'm praying about. Not as I will, yes, this is my will, but let your will be done.
In these changing times and seasons of uncertainty, who do you look up to?
God keeps His part. Calm rain, calm sunshine. Mm-hmm. God is still committed.
From one generation to another, and it's not like shifting shadows that He will change. But
join Reverend Elizabeth Kimani and Henry Kyra every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. live on Kirk TV for Call Unto Me.
2021, He's still the same God and He has not changed.
Kwenye makala ya jukwaa la moderator.
Tunapojiweka mbele katika mambo yote tunayofanya, huwa tumeenda kinyume na matakwa ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Hasira moja iliyokuwa na Mungu ni kuhusu watu wanaojipenda. Kazi ya Mungu inapaswa kupewa kipaumbele. Hivyo kuna uwezekano ya kwamba tukisikiza ushauri wa Mungu kwa njia inayofaa, tutakuwa sawa kwake, sababu Mungu ana rehema na anatupenda.
Jiunge na moderator wa kanisa la PCA Mchungaji Thegu Mutahi kwa mahubiri, mafunzo na ufafanuzi wa masuala ibuka nchini. Kila Jumapili ya kwanza ya kila mwezi saa 1:30 jioni. Hapa Kirk TV.
Tafakari njia zako.
Wĩhithe thakame-inĩ ya Kristo nĩ tondũ noho hena ũhurũko na thayũ. Bwana pesifa. Indo-inĩ ciaku gũtirĩ na ũhurũko nĩ tondũ ona watua gũthikwo gũtirĩ hingo tũrĩ twathoma rũgano rwaku tũkauga nĩ atiga ngari 10 na mboroti 400 kũrĩa mwena wa Aramu na ngenge ciegĩtengera. Gũtirĩ handũ handĩkagwo guo, wandĩkagwo watiga atumia 3 na ciana 4. Ũhoro waku ũgĩka atĩa? Thutha wa wiki 2 tukariganĩrwo nĩwe na tukanjĩrĩria mũtũrĩre witũ o ta kawaida. Okorwo ndũrabangĩte nyũmba yaku tugoka tukanjĩrĩria kũrũĩra kĩ? Indo. Ĩro cio ngĩbanga nyũmba yaku wega. Bwana apewe sifa.
The Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, PCMF, welcomes all PCMF readers to the annual Readers Conference year 2023 in Milere Beach Hotel, Mombasa, as we mark the journey of 50 years from when the idea of having a men fellowship was mooted since 1973. Keep registering, keep
A very good morning once again. Welcome. This is Kirk in the morning, and as I told you earlier, time to have that conversation this morning. Junior secondary school transition, and of course, it is a system that set off in 2017. 6 years later, it is truly up and running. But what is the situation? Confusions on uniforms, confusions on overpopulations, and of course, do we have enough teachers and qualified teachers to do this? In studio, I'm joined with one Paul Mungai. He is, of course, the school principal at PCA Nairobi West. And, of course, later we shall be joined in studio by Peter Munga, an education advocate who will help us understand, of course, the issue to do with junior secondary school. But in studio, let's begin right away. Karibu sana kwanza mwalimu.
Asante sana.
I believe you're having a good time, beginning of the year, beginning of the term, of course, beginning of the new school calendar. How are things so far?
Things are rolling on well. We are glad that we are in the new year, and we are ready to take up the new curriculum, that is CBC. Of course, the introduction of the junior secondary schools in our schools. Therefore, we are excited and we are happy to have the learners back for a new vigorous academic year, 2023.
Yeah, it finally looks like now schools are warming up to the issue to do with CBC. It wasn't like that a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. You were up in arms saying this is not the system that you want.
That is very true. There has been a lot of confusion. Some communications have not been coming through, but sure enough, we are ready to embrace the new curriculum, and we are happy that we are having the competence-based curriculum where we will be able to nurture the abilities, the potentials, the talents of our learners in our schools.
Of course, you were in a position to, witness the first national exams, if you may call it, of grade 6 to grade 7. How are the examinations? Because it was the first time they were administered in the country. How are they, according to your own eyes?
According to me, I can say the whole period of assessing our learners was okay. Only that we are experiencing challenges in terms of the results. Because after we downloaded the results from the Kenya National Examination Portal, we found that some of the learning areas had gaps. So many learners have got gaps in some of the learning areas. It is something that we are trying to address through the sub-county education offices, and surely they have told us that NEC is on the case.
Okay. I know it was a bit of a confusion when the new government came in and said now the JESS is going to be domiciled in the primary schools that, of course, had the students. I know the previous regime was going, to schools and trying to build up extra, classrooms in high schools to be able to transition the grade 6 to high school. But when the new system came, when the new regime came, the president said that schools, the primary schools are going to domicile the grade 7 Were you prepared for that as Nairobi West?
We were not prepared for that. Of course, for us, we had decided that we are not going to venture into junior secondary school. But later, the government made this announcement that there was a task force to look into matters of CBC. And after the task force presented its report to the president, there were instructions that schools will be inspected. At that point, PCA Nairobi West Academy was inspected, and we were found fit. We had the facilities. So we were given a go-ahead to now host the junior secondary school. At that point, that's when now we have come in and now to try and put into place the infrastructure, the teaching staff, and all the requirements in the junior secondary school. But of course, there was that confusion initially. We were not sure whether the grade 7 or the junior secondary school will be domiciled in the primary schools or in the secondary school. And of course, there was the challenge of age to the learners. They were too young. Many parents felt that they were not ready to get into high schools, given their age. They are 13, they are 12. So that has been there. There has been that confusion, but we are glad that now the junior secondary schools are being domiciled in primary schools.
What are some of the adjustments that you've had to make as a school to, incorporate and make sure that you're ready for the grade 7, which you earlier, as you said, you had not in mind that you're going to have them beyond grade 6, but now they are in school. What are some of these adjustments that you've made as a school in terms of facilities?
Okay, the major facility that has been the bare minimum requirement is a science laboratory. So we have been forced to, we have been forced to put it in place. According to the Ministry of Education, the inspectors who came, who are going around the schools, told us the bare minimum requirement for us or for the schools was a science laboratory. And that is what we've been able to work on, and I'm glad that it is on a very advanced stage, yes, in our school.
Yeah, that's great. Let me understand in terms of transition from grade 6 to grade 7. How is the transition? Do you have the 100% transition in your school? Have you had an opportunity to maybe enroll new students from other schools who are joining grade 7 in PCA Nairobi West?
At PCA Nairobi West Academy, we've not been able to have 100% transition. But because of some reasons, some of the reasons are beyond us. For example, parents relocating to different areas. At the same time, we've not been able to enroll new students, but we are having inquiries from parents all over around Nairobi West and its environs who want to join our school. Of course, we have been given a go-ahead by the Ministry of Education to host the junior secondary school at PCA Nairobi West Academy, and therefore we are welcoming all those parents who are stranded out there. They don't know what to do to join our school.
Yeah, and I know there are some issues that arose last week when pupils are supposed to report to school, an issue to do with uniforms. The ministry had categorically stated that junior secondary school pupils or students are going to be in entirely or a whole new uniform and totally different from the one they had.
Uniform from the primary school learners. For us at PCA Nairobi West Academy, what we have done, we have altered our original uniform a bit by introduction of a different color for the sweaters, and we've also introduced blazers for the junior secondary school learners, and therefore at the moment they feel okay, they are very comfortable to be in a junior secondary class. Yes.
Let me ask you, how are other students looking at them, other pupils, maybe grade 6 and those other, are in lower classes? How are they looking at the grade 7 pupils? Are they looking them as, people from another planet, are they receiving them? You know, looking them as older than them. You see, how is the relationship?
Of course, there is that sense of admiration. Okay. They admire them a lot, especially in their new uniforms. They admire them a lot. But the good thing with us is that these children have been together, and therefore that relationship is still maintained. They have a good relationship, though now the other classes look up to them as their seniors in the junior secondary school, of course.
Hawaogopi
hawaogopi kwa sababu wamewazoea.
Because they're one of their own, of course. Exactly. Definitely. I would like us to listen to a particular bite by the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Ezekiel Machogu, that he released the other day on the new rule that he thinks, the guidelines, sorry, if I may call them, on what the junior seconds should, adhere to, even as the, transition. I don't know if we have that clip from my director on the other side. If we don't have, we can go ahead. And all right, okay, let's have that clip, and then we will continue the conversation.
We also say it is free. There is no money for registration. And let me repeat that no principal, no board of management, no parent association, no any other person will be authorized to come up with unnecessary levies as registration fees. I've seen some newspaper reports, social media reports, that some parents are getting scared, saying that there is something like registration fees. That one, anywhere it will be legal, and government has made it clear that the 15,000 we are giving us per student will be able to cover all the required requirements as per each and every.
Well, that's the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Ezekiel Machogu, bringing out clearly what he thinks should be done in junior secondary school. And one of the issues he's talked about there is on capitation and school fees. And they say the government is giving capitation to public schools. First of all, are you public school or private? Are you categorized?
We are a private school.
Private school.
Yes.
Let me understand how you deal with parents, because now it seems the parents have to carry this burden for the school fees. How much are you charging as as a private institution compared to the 15,000 shilling capitation from the government for public schools?
In terms of the government capitation of the 15,000 shillings, of course it comes with the government issues the students in public schools with textbooks, exercise books, and so on. And therefore, for us in private schools, we are forced to charge our parents. The parents have to bear the cost, because as private institutions, we do not receive any funds from the government whatsoever. Yes.
Let me ask you, what are some of the new maybe adjustments that you've done to your school fees pertaining the junior secondary school that was not there in grade 6 that you've introduced, and why, probably?
Okay, for us, we have not introduced any new charges. In fact, our junior secondary school learners are just paying the amount that the Class 7s last year were paying. In addition to that, our students, those who are with us in grade 6, we are not charging them a new admission fee. We are also not charging them any cost on books, neither caution money. And therefore, for us, for our students and our parents, it has been a smooth transition, because we have not introduced new charges at all in our school, except for those parents who will be joining us from other schools. Of course, we have to charge the admission fee. We have to provide the children with the books Therefore, we have to charge them the book fund and, of course, the termly fees, which caters for their meal, which caters for their tuition and other needs in a school setting.
Okay. Let's talk about the availability of facilities as far as this, CBC system is concerned. There have been jitters around the availability of enough classrooms and, of course, books and, other facilities like laboratories and all that. How do you see this affecting the quality of the education that is going to, emanate from the CBC, especially if we compare the private schools and the public schools? How do you look at this and look at the quality at the end of the day of the students that are going to school, maybe in private schools and in public schools?
The children who are attending private schools will definitely have an advantage over the ones who are attending public schools. At the moment, the government has instructed the primary public schools to build two extra classes, one for the junior secondary school and one as a laboratory. At the moment, not much has happened in the public schools, but in many private schools, I think they have made strides. And you will find that already they have put in place the laboratories, they have put in place the classrooms, and in addition, they have gone a step further to make sure that the staff, that is the teaching staff, the teachers are available to teach the new learners in grade 7 or the JSS who are joining in their schools. And therefore, in many private schools, it's a matter of opening school and immediately in week 1, they proceed with the curriculum. They proceed with the teaching and so on. That is not happening in the public schools. And therefore, what I may say is that the children or the learners in the private institutions will have an upper hand over the ones in public schools. I was looking at, I was reading in the newspaper recently, and the government says that it is going to deploy one teacher per each primary public school. One teacher isn't able to teach the 14 required learning areas. Those are formerly referred to as the subjects, now referred to as the learning area, 14 of them. The one teacher who is deployed there surely cannot manage all that. Yeah, so it is a bit of confusion in terms of staffing, and that one will affect the quality of teaching, the quality of learning in many of those schools.
Yes, and I just want to understand how you're looking at it from the point of, being fair to each learner, because if you've said that the private schools, the students in private schools are definitely going to get it easier, up and upper, and compared to those in public schools. Is this then fair? Because education should be fair, should be available, and affordable to all.
It's not fair. It's not fair, but I think the government has to put a lot of resources in those public primary schools, because as it is, the numbers are very high in those schools as opposed to the ones that are the private schools, which have got a small number. And therefore, the learners in the private sector will have an advantage because the teachers can attend to individual needs. And therefore, in terms of CBC, where learners, individuals, potential individuals are nurtured, you will find that the small number in private schools will be an advantage. And therefore, what I might urge the government is to make sure that they put more resources in the public schools. Of course, they are talking of 15,000 capitation. It is not enough. I think the government has to go a step further and make sure that the resources are there, the teachers are in those schools, so that learning can continue smoothly for the learners in the public schools to be able to compete with those ones or with their counterparts in the private sector.
Yeah. We will continue this conversation because I have a lot to ask you since you are a case study of all this. But before then, we take a short break. We'll be right back, I believe, with the other guest, Peter Munga, an education advocate, to help us understand a little bit on, policy making as far as this JSS, Junior Secondary School Education, is concerned. So do not go away. Remember that you can weigh in on the conversation through our social media pages, Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook, Kirk TV _Kenya on Twitter, as well as our SMS number 0111002244, and we'll be able to look at your feedback even as we continue with the conversation. So do not go away. We'll be back shortly.
The Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, PCMF, welcomes all PCMF readers to the annual Readers Conference year 2023 in Milere Beach Hotel, Mombasa, as we mark the journey of 50 years from when the idea of having a men fellowship was mooted since 1973. Keep registering, keep paying up through our group's account in Family Bank.
Our year 2023 theme for the conference comes from the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 24. And it says, motivated men in love for good works. Fanya kazi, kazi ya Bwana.
Yes, we are back. Of course, we are having a chat just before we came back, and I want you to introduce in studio the education advocate that we've been waiting for. He is finally here, Mr. Peter Amunga. Karibu sana. And I just want to take you from there immediately. You are a policymaker in this. You follow this, and the jury is still out there about CBC, but it's up and running. It's the 7th year, and there's nothing you can do. They have transitioned to grade 7, and it has to go on. What is your take so far? You've seen the transition already. It's the first week though, but you've seen it. What's your take so far?
Yeah, my take is that, of course, the train has already left the station. CBC is already on course. We are now in grade 7. We started some 7 years ago, if we have to say, Yeah. So whatever the case, we can't run away from what is happening. We can't pull out. We already just have to keep moving. The issue is, as policymakers, we know that mistakes were made, either to please our political leaders or to look like we are doing something. We did mistakes. We did not implement. We did not carry out the 7 stages of curriculum implementation, which include things like research, things like piloting stage. All those stages were skipped. And so we are now in a situation, it's called a catch-29, catch-22 situation, whereby we can't do anything else, but we have to keep moving. And so when you are found in such a situation, you don't run away from problems. You face them and overcome them. Congestion is going to be a problem. We have to face it and overcome it. Books is going to be a problem. The teachers, actually the issue where I'm more concerned about is the teachers.
The teaching staff.
The teaching staff. Yeah. As we speak, actually, as of this morning, still the teachers have not reported, who are even recruited from the Teacher Service Commission. It's only the private schools that at least have, most of them have done something. But the public schools, as we speak right now, the teachers who are supposed to handle those classes called the junior secondary have not arrived. So of course that's going to be another hiccup. And all we can say is that now we have to look for solutions. What is the way going forward? We can't go back. Because if we say we go back, it's a whole generation lost. So we just have to keep moving. So we are hoping that by end of this week, the Teachers Service Commission will release teachers to schools. We are hoping that books will arrive in schools, and where they are congested and things are, there'll be some form of balancing as we go along. So the hiccups and the teething problems have to be there. We can't run away from them.
Okay, and some of the issues that you've raised there pertaining confusion on the whole system itself, then not enough teaching staff, and overpopulation, what we call a congestion for that matter. These, as you call them, are problems, and we have to face them. What is the best way to face them? Because they are here with us.
Yes.
From where you seated as a policymaker.
Actually, the best way to face these problems and overcome them is, first of all, just to remain focused as a country. We can't want to be distracted in terms of, looking for the failures or who went wrong or who didn't do what, or who, if we go into that one, we will not move. We can't keep blaming somebody. I listened to a TV show like this one, and one of the panelists was saying that we just better go back to 844. This is too bad. In fact, another person called me, an MP from Kakamega called me and said, Mr. Amunga, I think what we need to do is the minister just needs to throw in the towel and say, we can't manage. But I told the MP, that's not the way.
What happens to those in grade 7? Because this 7 years spent in the system, how can you say you throw in the towel? Then what happens to
what they're saying is, we just allow the class 7 to go on as it was going on before. You see, we've been having class 7.
Yeah.
We have also been having class 8.
Okay.
So these people are saying, now, instead of just talking now of grade 7, just talk about class 7. Let them just remain the way they were.
But the education system, the curriculum is totally different.
Now we're talking about junior secondary school. Yeah. You see, and that is where the elephant in the room is. I tend to think the Presidential Working Task Force, which I gave my views as a member of the NAT, Kenya National Union of Teachers, we gave our views. But you know, the problem that the task force seems to have also created was to say that we domicile the secondary, the junior secondary in primary. Yeah. The late Magoha, and God rest his soul in peace, had worked so hard to ensure that it is in the secondary school. And classes had been built. We can't run away from it. I am a BOM chair of a school here in Nairobi, and 2 classrooms had already been built in my school. So the government, the problem we have, listeners and viewers, is at us, policy level making. We actually seem to be the problem. We don't seem to be advising the government properly, or government is listening from very many quarters, and so the confusion comes in. But at the end of the day, we can't throw in the towel, because we are now talking about secondary school. Junior secondary is not junior primary. Yeah. We are talking about now teaching things like biology, chemistry, physics, things that were not taught in primary. Yeah. They're not the primary curriculum. We are not talking about now things like French, design. So for us to do those kind of studies, we must have labs. Those primary schools must have some lab. We must have a Bunsen burner. If you remember when you were doing Form 1, you must have a beaker. You remember a beaker? Yeah, I remember. You must have a microscope. Yeah. So now we have to go down to other schools. Where I come from, Mushkongolo Primary. We must have a lab there. And the truth of the matter is that those things are non-existent right now.
They're even non-existent in secondary schools themselves. They struggle to have that. Yes. Let me bring in the principal here, Nairobi, PC Nairobi West Academy, yes. And let's understand how themselves they're doing this, because we had talked about this earlier, of course. But I think he's talked about the facilities. Are you feeling the pinch as private schools as well, as much as you stand alone and you're able to do things your own way? But are you feeling the pinch of having enough teaching staff? Because this definitely new teachers that you're bringing on board, definitely, and you have to pay them. You have to do that, and you have to introduce these facilities, as you said, labs and all that. Are you feeling the pinch as private schools?
Yes, as private schools, we are feeling the pinch. But as the expert has said, the curriculum, the CBC curriculum is here with us. 7 years after it was introduced, it is here with us. And what I may say is that we cannot go back. We may feel the pinch, but the private institutions will have an advantage over, of course, the public institutions. They are able to pull their resources together and set up the laboratory as quickly as they can, because, of course, that is a requirement from the government. So we have to meet the requirements. We feel the pinch, yes, but it is something that we must have to do. So for us as private schools, we might feel the pinch, but of course we cannot go back. We have to put in place what is required. That is in terms of infrastructure, that is in terms of teaching staff, that is in terms of also the parents having to change the uniforms and so on. But we are moving on. We are progressing on well. Of course, in many private schools already, we have the teachers in place. We also have the books in place. And therefore, for us, learning is going on already from the time the term has begun. We are already on learning.
Like have you had to increase your teaching staff, and if so, by how many? As a private school, we begin from there. Then we do a comparison. What happens in a school like PCA Nyamacheki in Nyeri, which has 196 junior secondary school pupils, students?
For us, we have not increased the number, because the teachers who are teaching in our school were qualified, because most of them have enrolled in the degree program, that is the Bachelor of Education for secondary levels, and therefore currently that is the teachers that we are using in our schools. Although we are planning to increase that number so that we can be able to cater for all the learning areas. As I said earlier, there are 14 learning areas. That's a lot, and therefore we will be forced to bring in new staff. Of course, an extra cost on us, that is in terms of paying of the staff and so on. But there is no other way out. We have to move on. That's where we are as a country. We must face it.
We must face it. But Namunga, you can hear this is a principal of a school in the city. Yeah. And you talked about your school. Can you remind us the name?
Mushkongolo
Primary School. Yes. Where I come from, we have Madongo Poromoka, the primary schools. And you can imagine the kind of confusion they are in at the moment. They don't have even enough classrooms for the normal primary schools. Yes. Now you have to introduce another. And the next secondary school had built an extra classrooms, yes, anticipating to receive students or learners for grade 7 that school. This is a big mess, but here we are. What do we need to do with the facilities that are already available? Say a school here, a primary school, and a secondary school already has an extra classroom that is not in use. Yeah. How do we then, cooperate and try to coordinate and work together to use what we have? Because, as you said, we can't go back.
No, we can't go back. Yes, the issue here will be that government will have to nurse its wounds and the budget will go up. That's why you're hearing taxation going up. Oh, yes. There's nothing like free lunch. And the principal from the school in Nairobi will tell you that many parents right now are actually rushing to private schools. What's happening is, if I had some little change in my pocket today, this morning, I will take my child to his school because he is already prepared. Faith-based schools, private schools are much more quick to adapt to change than public schools, because in public schools we have to do something called we have bureaucracies. We have the normal waiting and waiting for orders from above. A private school like him is a decision maker, he's a manager. Yeah. He can decide with his board quickly to employ teachers. We have to wait for somebody in Teacher Service Commission to wake up, to brush his teeth, to think if he should employ or not employ. It may take a week, a month, and politics must also come in. Yeah. All these things come into play. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, Kenyans will have to bear with the situation. The first class of junior secondary will be a sacrificial class. And it always happens. Any pioneer, wherever you go, once you're up, even the missionaries who came in this country, the first ones who started our churches and our schools, will tell you they paid the price for being a pioneer. The moment you are a pioneer, you pay a very strong price, because you walk, you are the one who sets the pace. You are the one who cleans the road. So this first class will have to clean the road for us. I don't expect, if your child is in the first class, as a parent, kubali tu kwamba mambo ndio hayo. Let us hope that things will work out properly. But I want to add something about what Mwalimu was saying. That the issue now is adapting to change. Kenyans are we as Kenyans, we have been voted in the world as people who are very adaptive. We are an animal that can fit anywhere. Our people, even if they go abroad, wherever they go, somehow they succeed. Because we are able to adapt. And what I can call upon Kenyans and I call upon parents is that our children will have to adapt to the new order. We call it normally the new order. This is the new norm. Junior secondary is here with us. We have to look for uniforms for these children. Teacher Service Commission will have to pay teachers. We'll have to build labs. We have CDF. We have got governors funds. We have got a faith-based organization like this one. We are to this morning. They will have to help us to build schools, and parents will have to come in. It will become something we call PTA, Parent Teachers Associations. Yes, they'll have to come up with a way to build classrooms. What is in high schools now will have to be taken over when these children, in the next 1 year. You see, we are talking about grade 7 and 8. Grade 9, which is the senior secondary, starts in the next 2 years. So we still will need those classrooms.
That's what I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how are we going to bring together the, the private sector into this? Because I believe there is a role that the private sector can play, and a big role for that matter, in, ensuring that we mitigate some of these challenges. How can we bring them in?
Actually, most of our schools that we have in this country, even the senior schools that we talk about, they were first faith-based schools. Yeah. Our missionaries and our churches were the Pope brought us this education. Me, I tend to think that the government, tried to copy. Actually, it stole. it removed what the churches were doing for us. The schools like the Alliances that we talk about, Scottish missionaries came. The schools that we talk about, the Mangus, the what, all these schools, when you go back to their background, there was a church involved. There was faith-based institution involved. So we are trying to say, we need again to bring back the faith-based organizations in this country. Bring all the stakeholders on board. Bring the churches, bring the politicians, bring everybody. Because education goes hand in hand with godliness. Yeah. You can't have a faith-based, you can't have light if you don't have education. They go hand in hand. Yeah. So faith brings light, and we need to incorporate them. We need, and that's what the former president Uhuru Kenyatta used to meet the Catholics used to have their schools, and many times they'll want to meet the president to discuss some of the issues that we are discussing right now here. You cannot give our schools as a church if you're not equipping them. If you cannot run them, return them back to the church. And what I'm seeing in future, what I'm seeing in future, and I'm saying it on this live TV, I'm seeing many parents and Kenyans going back to the faith-based run schools, because they feel those ones have got some kind of direction. The ones we run, our public schools, which I have taught in for many years, they have issues of confusion, congestion, lack of planning, lack of foresight, waiting for orders from above. And those orders from above are confusing sometimes.
Confusing most of the time. Let me bring in Mwalimu. You seem to have got a few accolades from Banamunga on how the faith-based schools are run. What are you doing differently as a faith-based school? And how do you think you can collaborate and corroborate with the government to ensure that some of the challenges that we are likely to face, we started facing already and we are likely to face in the medium term, as far as the junior secondary education is concerned, can be mitigated? What are you doing differently, and how can you corroborate?
Yes, this is a period of change.
Yeah.
And as the expert has said, that we must adapt to change. So as faith-based institution, I think what we are doing differently is adapt to change very fast. That this is the communication that is coming. Then what can we do? How can we pull the resources to make sure that we are putting in place the requirements? That is the major difference between the faith-based institutions to the government institutions or the public institutions. That these changes are here with us, but for how long? How long are we going to take before we implement, before we put in place? If he is talking about the Teacher Service Commission today, that is a week after schools opened, but the teachers have not reported to the stations. Then what have these learners been doing for a whole week? I think that is where now the challenge is. The change is here. There is no turning back. The better or the quicker we adapt to that change, the better it is for our learners, the better it is for our country. And as we are saying, it is a whole generation. We cannot back off at this point because the curriculum is very, very different. That is the CBC to the 844. A lot of resources has been already used in terms of making sure that new materials have been published. He's an expert in curriculum development. A lot has been done at that policy making level, and therefore we cannot talk of going back. Now, what I may say is that change is here with us. How fast can we change? What does the government need to do? Because we are in this. In terms of the faith-based institutions, can the government find a way of working with these privately owned institutions and institutions owned by the churches and so on, so that of course we can be of help to the overpopulated institutions in the public schools. Yeah. I was looking at it, and if we could just give an example of the local public schools around this area, which I've been able to visit. We are talking of more than 150 students who are transiting to grade 7. As it is, at this point, the government is talking of availing funds to build one classroom. How will it work? 150 students in one class who have transited to this junior secondary school. Then the government is talking of building one class and building one laboratory. Initially, the information that came to us was that institutions could work together. That is, if you have a school, you could actually work together with an institution that is a secondary school that is close to you. My school, PCA Nairobi West Academy, I think the closest school, the closest secondary high school is Langata High School, around 6 kilometers away. What are the logistics in the city? How do you take those children there? And therefore, what I'm saying is now the government has to make these changes as quickly as possible. Make sure that the funds are availed in the public schools. Make sure that the teachers are deployed there, and of course not the one teacher that they are talking about, because one teacher will not be able to cover the 14 learning areas. And you see
what are some of these learning areas, by the way?
There are 12 compulsory learning areas in the junior secondary school. Then in addition to that, we have 5 that are optional, and out of those 5, the learner is supposed to pick a maximum of 2 and a minimum of 1. So you find that learners in junior secondary will do a minimum of 13. A minimum of 13. So the same, talking of 13 learning areas, then the government is talking of deploying one teacher. And you see these teachers are specialists. They specialize in their area of teaching. Maybe you are specialized in
science.
Not science,
how is it called?
Physics and chemistry. You see? But we are talking in junior secondary school of integrated science, which now incorporates biology, physics, and chemistry. And therefore, in the integrated science area alone, we will require more than one teacher.
Yes, of course.
Now talk of the languages. Yes, these teachers do not specialize in both languages. You either do English and literature or English, Kiswahili, Fasihi. And therefore, that tells you that we'll require many teachers in these junior secondary schools.
Well, you know, I'm actually amazed at one teacher to cover all those areas. How is it possible?
No, it's not possible, of course. It's not possible. I'm a high school teacher. I've been a high school teacher for some time. And as Mwalim puts it correctly, it's not possible to teach. I'm only trained in 2 subjects, actually. So I cannot, if I was to go to junior secondary today, and I was posted there as the only teacher, I will not do anything. In fact, it will be the end of that school.
What is the quality of the education that we are going to, you know, give these learners then? What is the quality of the student that is going to come out of this junior secondary
That is why we failed in policy making. When the late Magoha was thinking about this thing and his team, they domiciled the junior secondary in a secondary school. Because they knew if these children were to go to a secondary school, already there their teachers are available.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yes.
Those teachers who are going to be, the teachers you talk about, the ones who have specialized in chem, bio, physics, business studies, digital literacy, all these teachers were there. But now you see, for junior secondary, when the task force said, now let us change, children are too young, we can't take them to secondary, let them remain in primary, and let us now have junior primary. Junior secondary, domiciled in primary, sorry. Now, the next thing that the people who say that should have thought about is what he's saying. Who will teach these children? Teacher Service Commission has already been having a shortfall of teachers by around almost 200,000 shortfall. Even the schools we're talking about, like Langata's high school, you go there, most of the teachers who are there are on BOM. Parents are paying for them. Teacher Service Commission has not been able to employ teachers. So the new government, in fact, when they were campaigning, their campaign tactic was, when we take over, they signed something called an education charter. They said, we will employ in our first year alone 100,000 teachers. Now they have not even done that. They're talking about 33,000, 30,000. Remember, also, teachers also retire. Teachers also drop out. Others join other issues like me, go to KICD, others go to NAT, others go to other issues. We are not stagnant that all of us will remain teachers by the end of the year. So we are always, we are changing. As he said, we have to adapt to changes. Now, this is the problem. Yesterday I visited Rabbi Road Primary here in Nairobi, somewhere in somewhere near Jogoo Road. The school has got 5 streams of junior secondary. They have been told to pick, around those slum areas. Like even if you go around here, South B here, South C here, Mukuru kwa Jenga, Nyayo slums. There are some schools that have been doing some work. Normally they are like either faith-based or NGOs. They have some schools that they normally help the children. But you see, they were not allowed now to have a junior secondary. So those children are now being channeled, all of them, to the nearest primary school, government primary school that has been approved to have a junior school. That school has got 5 streams. They have no teacher by yesterday when I was there. They don't have desks. They don't have, because now they have taken, at first they had only 2 streams. The school has been having 2 streams, okay? But because other children have been channeled there, now they're supposed to have 5 streams of junior secondary.
Are those streams, are the classrooms available?
They are not there. When I arrived, some were under a tree. Others were waiting for something to do on the corridors. Many were squeezed into the few classrooms that were available. And no teacher. The head teacher, like him now, for example, was told just to ensure they have something to do. Wakimbie hapo, waimbe, walale, wakitaka, tukingoja walimu. Now you look at that kind of attitude. Now the question, Mwalimu, I want to ask, and I'm asking our viewers, did we know we'll be here 7 years when we were forming this thing? Were we asleep as a country, as a government? Did we know that come 2023, January, we will have a class of junior secondary when we started this thing? Now must we wait for the last minute for us to start employing teachers? Why didn't we think about this thing earlier? Do we have parliamentarians who think about this thing? Do we have policymakers who plan? Or do we just wake up like somebody who has just woken up and he just discovers, let them do something? That is where we go wrong as a country. The day we'll start planning in advance is the day we will be a country to reckon with.
Yeah, you can imagine 5 streams of junior secondary school class, no classrooms for that, no teacher for that.
I think it is a very, very bad situation as a country.
It's unfortunate
to find ourselves in. And as he has said that we failed to plan. It's the proverbial saying that failing to plan is actually planning to fail. Yeah. I think we did not plan in good time. There were those policy, the parliamentarians, the lawmakers and all that. I think that is where the problem started. But we've been buying time. We've been buying time thinking that this day will never be with us. But unfortunately, it is
has
here
caught
with
up
us.
with us.
It has caught up with us. And therefore, that's why I'm saying, now we are here. What do we have to do?
Yes.
What do we need to do?
What are the
As you
solutions?
have heard, he was in a school yesterday, and it's unfortunately that the classes are not there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately that teachers to attend to those learners are not there. So it's totally
chaos.
It's chaotic.
Yeah.
Now talking of what we need to do. You see, the government has this is what when the inspection and the ministry officials were going around the schools after the findings of the task force, trying to find the suitability of schools to host junior secondary schools. There were two categories of schools. Schools were categorized into two. One, there were those that were given the go-ahead to host junior secondary schools. Okay. Then there was this other category. If you did not have, you did not 45. Meet the threshold and so on, you are told that you are a feeder school.
Okay.
A feeder school to where?
Who are you feeding?
Yes.
You are already feeding an overfed school. You see,
because the school has already been running.
Yes.
Like this Rabbi Road I'm talking about, already have their students.
Exactly.
Now, you are getting other feeder schools, the other schools that have been around, other schools that are not qualified to meet the threshold, as he says. Now they are feeding into this Rabbi school. Now, as he says, to feed how now?
Saturated.
It's already overfed.
So I think what they ought to have done is, look, this school has not met the threshold.
Yes.
But let us work with them to try and assist them. Let us give them some time so that they can put in place what the government requires to be put in place, as opposed to those schools feeding other schools. Because you find that the schools that are being fed already, they have shortfalls of infrastructure, shortfalls of teaching staff, and such things. And therefore, at that stage where the inspectors were going around the school and trying to find suitability of those schools to host junior secondary school, I think that one, at that point, that's when they would have realized that we don't need to send these students to schools that are already full. Yes, they would have worked with those institutions, trial to evaluate how can we come in, how can we assist, because you see there are no private students.
There's no private child and a public child.
All of them are children of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes.
Therefore, the government should come in, even in the private sector. In we call them the upbed schools.
Yes, those are the ones I was talking about.
Upbed schools in the slums.
In informal
settlements. They should also try to bring them up. Maybe pump some resources there so that these children in those sections or those sectors, the informal settlement, can attend school in those specific.
Actually, if I just to add something on what he's saying.
Yes.
Like in the villages, you know, what you're talking about is even better in town. I come from Kakamega County. The MP who called me actually is from Kakamega town. And he was telling me, in his constituency called Lurambi, some of the schools were picked to be the ones which would be fed, now the ones receiving students. Some of them are 14 kilometers away from the feeder school. Some are 5 kilometers away. Some are 6 kilometers away. Now, when you think about it, you discover we are going back almost to the colonial period. We are going back to a situation whereby mtoto anatembea 14 kilometers to school and 14 kilometers back home. Or you have looked for some form of transport, I don't know, to pay, piki or boda. You know, now we are asking, whoever was now given the task of approving the schools that will become junior secondary, again seems to have done us a disservice. And let me say this, Mwalimu, unfortunately. I was surprised. A teacher called me from Nairobi and said, do you know? No, actually from Nyanza, and he said, we have been told, if you want your school to be approved, ukuwe na kitu kidogo. Tukuje na kitu kidogo, there is a meeting. We have to see these people who are approving schools kando. Corruption
again continues to rear its ugly head in this very bad situation that we are in. That you have to bribe somebody at the Ministry of Education, give him some 2,000, 10,000 to approve your school. Now, that alone has again disqualified so many schools.
Yeah.
And as he puts it, these up-bed schools, these informal schools, these faith-based schools have been giving a relief to the government, a big relief. There are schools, my brother, you go into Madare, you go into these slums, Mukuru Kwanjenga. These conditions they are saying that a school must have land, acres for you to have playing grounds and to build all these kind of structures. In Mukuru Kwanjenga, where are you going to get that kind of land?
You can't.
Where are you going to get, leave alone Mukuru Kwanjenga, where we are now. This is South Sea.
Yeah.
Where are we going to get land to put a playing field for a school? But children have to learn.
Yeah.
So you see, the government comes up with the regulations that those regulations alone again bind us as a country. There's a way you need to flex to allow the privateers, to allow the NGOs, to allow the churches also to help the government. Give them an enabling environment to help you, to relieve you as a government. But when you give them hard conditions, that means they cannot help you as a government to tame or to lower the costs of education and to make education equitable to everybody around.
Yeah. Is it too late? Is it too late to look at the solutions as much as the school calendar year is already running? We already have the junior secondary school learners in schools, for that matter. Is it too late to implement some of the solutions that you're saying here, like having these learners in secondary schools where we have availability of teaching staff? Is it too late?
I think it is not late, though the term has already begun.
Yes, it has.
I think it is time the government swung into action very fast and salvaged the already situation. Yeah, the already was situation. So, though we've gotten into this mess, but I believe there is something that can be done. If the government could put its best foot forward, then I'm sure. For example, talking of staffing, what is holding the TSC from sending those teachers to the respective schools? It has been 2 months since children went for the December holiday. What happened over that time? What is happening at the moment that the teachers are not yet in schools? And therefore, for me, I might say that yes, we are here, but the government has to find something to do. Make sure the teachers are there. And as he was putting it, maybe give assistance to those institutions that have been of help to the government, the faith-based schools, the private institutions, the up-bed schools in the informal settlement. Give them support and give them an enabling environment. That one, I think we will be able to move forward. Don't put so many conditions. For example, the issue of land. We are in the city where the land is not adequate. We do not have many institutions having that kind of land. But of course, there is space up there.
You can go up.
We can go up. That's where now the space is. The space is. But for the issues of land, let the government just relax some of those conditions. Let those schools that maybe were not approved because of the many conditions that were put on them, let them be relaxed, so that these children can be able to attend into these schools, which are very, very close to their homes, and which the parents are also comfortable to take the children into.
Even as we conclude, Banamunga, I know the task force has not, reported fully, has not presented its full report. What are some of the recommendations that they should present to the president and the cabinet as far as this is concerned?
Actually, that's what I wanted to say when you asked the question that is it too late?
Yeah.
And one answer to that is what you've just said, that it's not too late because we still have the task force in place.
Yeah.
The task force was supposed to wind up in March.
Yeah.
So this task force, even these things we're talking even right now on this television set, they are actually listening to us.
Yeah.
And they're taking notes. That's their work. Their work
Yeah.
was to gather the views.
Yeah.
And they must have by now discovered the the potholes they have already led us in, especially by declaring that we domicile in primary schools.
Yeah.
By now they must already, it's everywhere, it's in newspapers, all the headlines we are seeing everywhere today is about the confusion. And the task force right now must be already thinking on what to do. We must again get stakeholders. You see, it is the same parents or stakeholders who met the task force and said, we like CBC, but it's too expensive because they are taking us back to what were they calling it? You know, they were taking us back to secondary school. These children are too young. So I tend to think even the task force will have to think again. There are some recommendations that will come up, and most likely they'll be a bit different. A solution that we need right now is funding.
Funding.
Actually, that is where the issue is. Who will fund education in Kenya? And me, my worry, Mwalimu, is that that is where the whole problem is in this country. It's not that we don't have policymakers. It's not that we don't have people who can think, implementers like myself. The problem we have is pesa. We cut our suit without the material that's enough. We have taken on a big thing called CBC. It's a nice thing. But you see in countries like Sweden, in countries like Finland, where CBC has worked, the government put in millions and billions of dollars. We are depending on World Bank. We are depending on some donors, IMF, to come up with a way to help us with some money, to borrow from some people somewhere to implement this thing. You are asking, what is taking so long for them to release teachers? Let me answer you now. Hakuna pesa. You will put teachers on the payroll. End month will come, end of this February. Hao walimu wanataka pesa. So these people, wherever they are right now, and I can tell you for free, shida yao wanaulizana, tushapata walimu ndio. Lakini before we give them the appointment letters, mpaka tufikiria watapewa nini mshahara. So the problem is not even the money, capitation. We have been told by the ministry, all primary schools, junior secondary, will receive 15,000 shillings per child. I want to tell you, I'm a board of chairman, board of a school chair. Hakuna pesa imeingia. Wacha junior secondary. Hata tu ya hao wengine wa kawaida haijaingia. In fact, tulimaliza mwaka jana when we already had a debt with the government, had not cleared with us. So we are saying even the money for last year, they have not cleared. Now we are talking about this is a new year. From once I've reported, we are second week of the school has already started. From once I'm reporting next week, we have not received capitation for this year. So we are faith-based organizations like his school. At least they plan earlier. They have the funding maybe. They have a way of collecting fees from their children. Magoha, the late Magoha used to tell the child, enda na sanduku kwa shule, ingia. Hakuna kitu ingine utalipa. Just go to school. We go to that school. How do we buy chalk? How do we buy anything? In fact, I can assure the listeners who are listening, the problem is not that we don't have thinkers. The problem is that we have decided to live a lie. We live a life that we cannot afford. Ni kama ule mtu amechukua loan ya magari, you have vehicles, you are living on rented, and you want to live large. That is where Kenya is today. We are living large, we are living above our means, and CBC is one of the biggest things that will consume all our money. That is why your taxes are high this morning.
Wow, I don't want to add anything after that, but I believe those who are at the policy-making level have been following this program this morning, and some of the sentiments that have been relayed on this show as solutions could help. We have an elephant in the house. It's in the room. It's us to decide how to deal with it. Do we cut off its legs? Do we shoot it down? Or how do we deal with it? At the end of the day, the CBC is with us, and it's with us to stay. How we deal with it, it's going to determine the future of our generation. And the government has a role to play. As they say, the buck stops with us. How are we going to deal with this? 10, 15 years later, we have question to answer of a generation that either got it right or got it wrong. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us in studio. I've been with Peter Mungai. Yes. Paul Mungai, sorry. Yes, Paul and Peter. Yes, Paul Mungai in studio. He is the principal of PCEA Nairobi West Academy, and of course Peter Amunga. He is an education advocate, and they've been of an integral role this morning to help us understand the transition, how things are on the ground, because it is happening. It is no longer we are looking up to, but it is here with us, how it is happening. So it's us to decide on how to deal with the elephant in the house. As I said, shoot it down, clip its legs. It's us to decide. Thank you for being with us. This has been Kirk in the Morning. My name is Vincent Kerosi. Remember that we do this every Wednesday. We look at the issues that touch on the daily lives of Kenyans and try to look for solutions on how they're going to be dealt with. I'll do this again next week. On behalf of everyone who made this show possible, I want to say thank you, and may you have a good day. Have a good day as well, gentlemen in the house, even as we go back to school, as we go back to the office and try to look for policies that are going to transform the sector. Wish you all the best, and I believe that anytime that we need you, if we call on you, you'll be able to come again to have such conversations. Yes, continue the conversation going on our social media, Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook, Kirk TV Kenya, Kirk TV _Kenya on Twitter, as well as our SMS number 0341220044, and we'll continue to look at this and even relay them to our experts to help us understand. From me, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of my producer and every person on the deck on the other side. God bless you. See you again soon. Kwaheri.